Dylan hit us up from Athens, Georgia. Somehow an Oregon fan in Athens, Georgia. He said, what are 2 or 3 matchups you think will define the Big Ten and SEC this season? You know what? Let's talk about it. Let's go SEC here. He hails from SEC country after all. Give me LSU Ole Miss in Week 3, Jesse. LSU Ole Miss in Week 3 is classic. It's not even scheduling, really. It's like booking. This is an old school pro wrestler promoter mentality of I got Lane Kiffin who left town and he goes to LSU. And if you were to, read message boards and you were to believe Twitter back then, only the basic scraps are left in Oxford. I mean, anyone and everyone who's worth anything went to LSU. Now, this is not true, and you and I know that's not true, but that's kind of how booking works. That's kind of how promoting a big event works. And so if we're promoting this game, that's what I would say. And then I've got Pete Golding, who took over in the playoffs, but then this is his first full go-round as a head coach, and I got a $40 million roster, reportedly, down there at LSU, and I get to see LSU tested early, and I get to see Oxford, Mississippi with a chance to be weaponized against Lane Kiffin instead of in favor of him. It's going to be must-see stuff. Both of these teams have, but especially LSU, has multiple losable games in the first month of the season. You know what? There are also all winnable games, but this is the big one. That's Week 3. I'd say Florida and Auburn that same week is not going to get nearly the national run that LSU Ole Miss is going to get. But, man, Florida doesn't go to Auburn a whole lot. They used to play this game all the time, and they don't nearly as much anymore, but the schedule fix, playing 9 games in conference per year, is kind of fixing that. These teams have combined to have losing seasons 9 out of the last 10 years. Stupid. That's a stupid stat. It's an inexplicable stat. So both have been below par. Both hired new coaches. You're looking at a lot of overlap here because a lot of the headlines were interchangeable. The Auburn coaching search, the Florida coaching search, and you'd see John Summerall's name mentioned with Auburn, and then he'd be mentioned with Florida, and then it looks like Summerall's going to Auburn. But, last minute swerve, classic booking again, and he goes to Florida, and then Alex Golish, Arkansas, nope, Auburn. Okay, so now the dust clears, and they're going to play each other. Both of them have new head coaches. Both of them will be starting new quarterbacks, and both teams, it feels like, have decent to legitimate wild card potential, especially the one who wins this early season game will be spat out into the early to midpoint of the SEC season, and they'll kind of have a little wild card vibe about themselves. Let's go to Week 6, because that's Georgia-Bama week. We went this long period of time. It seems like Georgia and Alabama didn't play unless they were going to play in the SEC title game, and now they play all the time. It's like a yearly tradition now. So Georgia goes to Alabama Week 6. This has been the most impactful matchup in the SEC the last decade. Is it 11 of the last 12 SEC champs were one or the other? LSU 2019, yeah, there it is. The only exception there. Look at that graphic. How ridiculous is that? So it turns out when people were chanting SEC, Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like 2 brands there were doing a lion's share of the work. Wow. I heard those allegations from up north. It turns out there was a lot of validity to it. 2019 LSU notwithstanding. So Georgia is 8th in returning production this year. Bama, 90th. Does home field advantage cancel that out? Also, what is Gunnar Stockton this year? Doubly also, who is Alabama starting at quarterback? Triply also, could Alabama be starting a guy in Keelan Russell, who is still my pick to win that job, that by Week 6 is playing higher level ball than some established returning starters? But by the way, both of these teams, both of these programs are still really hard leaning towards building rosters through traditional high school recruiting, which I respect and I appreciate. Same day, Texas and Oklahoma. Quick 5-second timeout. Check and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It keeps it free. We love you. All right, back to the show. The same day, the Red River Shootout, known by no other name on this show, is happening in the Cotton Bowl, built shortly after the Civil War, in Dallas, Texas. I think it's the best setting for any rivalry game in college football. I know you will disagree. I know what your reasons are. You're not going to convince me otherwise. Is Texas a machine this year? I was trying to play this scenario out in my head. it's more likely that even if Texas wins the national title this year, there'll be a lot of close games. That's more likely. But there is an alternate scenario where Texas just stomps everybody. We'll know by week 6, or at least we'll know a lot more than we do now, whether they look like this unstoppable force. But even if they look like that, you know how you can work yourself into the trap of thinking that something's an unstoppable force, and then all of a sudden that offense goes up against Brent Venables, and it's like a bear trap around your ankle. It's like, where did a bear trap come from in Dallas? Well, Brent Venables said it. It is going to get billed as Brent Venables and his defense versus Arch Manning. And it is, you know what else it is? It's Will Muschamp versus John Mateer. And John Mateer came back to play this game last year and was very ineffective. And Texas won the game. And now we get another matchup because, as the good Lord intended, they play this one every year. So that's the same day as Georgia-Alabama. Monster Saturday in the SEC. And then lastly, at least as far as the SEC is concerned, might I hit the fast forward button all the way to week 11? And I didn't want to repeat any teams here. That's why I'm going a little different direction with some of these. I picked Tennessee at Texas A&M in week 11 as maybe a defining game. Now, there is always the risk that both of them have been knocked out of contention, or maybe one of them has been knocked out of contention by this point, because these are pretty difficult schedules. Now, if one's been knocked out of contention, this still could be an ultimate, spoiler roll type game. It could be like a number one contenders type game if we're going the pro wrestling route again. It could be one of those feels where maybe Texas or maybe Georgia has assumed the top spot in the conference by that point. It's really obvious they're going to be favored against whoever they play in Atlanta, but we need the number one contender. We need to know who's going to Atlanta. Maybe this game has a lot to say about that. Could be a surprise top 10 matchup, of course. That's a little more on the bold end of the spectrum. Bold prediction season is nearly upon us, by the way. Heads up. I'm going to fire the tweet off very soon. Just be ready for it. Tennessee's road schedule. Bradley, do me a favor and show me Tennessee's schedule one more time. I just want to call this into the spotlight. Tennessee does not have an easy schedule, but they play Texas at home, Auburn at home, Alabama at home. They go to South Carolina on the 24th. We don't know how good South Carolina is going to be this year. They go to Arkansas on October 10th. That's a brand new staff there. We got no clue how good Arkansas is going to be. It gets all the way to my sister's birthday, Jesse. It gets all the way to November 14th. Happy early birthday, by the way. Before we see Tennessee go into like a bona fide, really, really hostile environment against a team that's playoff caliber. Georgia Tech, no disrespect in week 2, but I don't know that we're putting the CFP sticker on the jackets this year. So in a sort of weird way, I don't know, maybe Tennessee hasn't been tested on the road, the likes of which they'll be tested here. So that is where my eyes go in the SEC.